So if you were to ask me, what is your dream car? I would tell you it's the Porsche 911 Turbo S. And then if you were to ask me, what is your dream sensible car? I would probably change that statement to the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, which is incidentally what I'm driving today. And I actually have the 4S, which is one of the faster ones as well. And I'm taking it over the Scottish Highlands again, which I'm going to try and do more of in some of my videos, because I absolutely love going over the Cairngorm mountain range. It's a really beautiful scenic route, and I get some really nice open roads, and it's just beautiful to be up here. So that's where we are right now. I'm actually climbing a very steep hill on my way into the Lecht mountain range, and I'm very excited to tell you everything I can about this car with the limited range on offer. I've got less than 200 miles to play with this, and I've already used about 50 of that. So I have to be careful where I use the real performance of this thing, but I'll do my best. So if that sounds good, buckle up, let's get into it. So the Cross Turismo is based on the Taycan, which is a kind of saloon type Porsche, like a standard looking Porsche. And this one is more like a off-roader estate, go anywhere, jack of all trades type car. And I think it's a very nice looking car. In fact, it's probably the sexiest car I've ever got to review. I really love it, the stance on it, the ground clearance, but it just still looks like a really awesome sporty car, but it looks like it can go absolutely anywhere. So there's three trims you get with the Cross Turismo: the standard Cross Turismo, then the 4S, which is this, and then you get the turbo at the top end, which is an absolute flying machine, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds in that thing. This one has 483 brake horsepower in standard mode. I say standard like normal or sport, but if you go into launch mode, which we will be doing in a little bit, you get 563 brake horsepower and 650 newton meters of torque. So that's quite a lot, and it will get you 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. So I'm interested to see if that's actually for real. This car also has air suspension as standard, which will adapt on a gravel mode so that you can go over rougher terrain with more clearance. 340 mils of ground clearance, so up 40 mils from what you get in standard kind of normal mode. But that could be quite useful in floody conditions or snowy conditions, and generally the sort of stuff that I would see in winter quite a lot. That could be a useful little bit of extra ground clearance. But it's not the sort of car I think you're really going to want to take properly off-roading, because one, it's too nice a car for that, and I would be really worried about getting damaged. But also, well, most off-roading adventures are usually out in the wilderness, and there's not going to be too many charging points there, to be honest, and that's going to be an issue, because this thing in the real world, with its 97 reusable kilowatt-hour battery, will barely do 200 miles on a full charge. So yeah, you better have a charge point at home for starters with this thing, but that is not a lot of range. But the suspension is excellent. It's absorbing all the bumps, and it's just such a smooth ride compared to my Tesla Model 3, which I'll probably compare to in a couple of points in this video. Yeah, it's in another league. The drive modes are excellent though. You've got this range mode, which I've been using a lot today because I'm worried about eating my battery up too quick. I've already got only 95 miles of range left and quite a bit of review still to do and to get home. So I'm starting to get a little bit of a twitchy bum, to be honest. But this range mode is good because it limits you to 60 miles an hour, and it's basically just eking out your battery as much as possible, optimizing all the systems as well. So it's been quite handy today. Normal mode is just what it says on the tin, normal. And then sport mode is going to make things a lot more dynamic. And Sport Plus, that's where we've got all the really fun stuff to talk about. But also you have individual mode, so you can set the car up exactly as you like it in terms of steering, handling, all of that. And yeah, you really have your cake and eat it. So I put it into sport mode, even on the move. I put my foot down. Blimmin' heck, that is just off. It is so quick. It really is just bonkers how fast this is. I'm just too scared to use the power too much today because it's just going to totally and utterly kill my... Has that just dropped a few miles just for me doing that one little acceleration? Oh, I've got to be careful with this. This is going to be really close to the bone to get back. But the acceleration of this at motorway speed, or 40 plus miles an hour, is mental. You're just going to keep going and going and going. It is such a quick car. This is a much quieter car than my Tesla Model 3 as well. There is a couple of noises it makes when you're changing your gear when you're about to set off. So it makes a bit of a crunching noise at times, which isn't great, but overall the refinement of this car is excellent. and I'm not hearing any wind noise or anything. It's very windy up here, but it's a really, really nice, serene place to spend time. I can hear myself talk, and if your kids were in the back, you'd be able to hear them, no bother. The steering's very sharp. You can really throw it into a bend with confidence, and it's really direct. It's bloody great, actually. So that side of things is just like any other Porsche, and job done. Its normal ground clearance is still 300 mils, and that's more than the standard Taycan. And you definitely feel like you're sitting up a lot higher, but you wouldn't notice it in the bends. It really handles fantastically well. And yeah, the air suspension's adapting in the corners and just keeping you really flat. It's absolutely sublime. I mean, this car is fast, but it feels like a really big, heavy car as well. You know, it's nimble enough, but it's a big, heavy car. And obviously it's an electric car, so it's got a big battery in it. But at the same time, it's got a good low center of gravity, which is great in terms of the handling, but it does feel like I'm lumbering a pretty big car around here. This is probably where, if you were driving the Porsche Panamera, it might feel just that little bit more nimble, even though it won't be as fast possibly, unless you go for like the Turbo S. It's going to be just a little bit more nimble because it's going to be lighter, but this does feel like a proper touring car. So the sound of the electric performance when you put your foot down is definitely more pronounced than in my Tesla. It just definitely goes like that. But you can actually put on the electric sport sound, and it's kind of more like you're going to warp speed kind of sound than it is a engine note, if you like. But it definitely adds a little bit of engagement to it. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of synthetic engine notes in internal combustion engine cars, but in an electric car, yeah, I think it maybe does just make you feel a little bit more like, oh yeah, I'm going faster now. Okay, so let's launch this bad boy. Full on the brake. What the actual? Oh my god! Woo! 3.77 seconds. That is pretty blooming quick considering we're going up a tiny hill. So a bit of drama there. Annoyingly, the video I just made of the launch was all good except for one thing. I forgot to press record on my GoPro style camera that was going to film the actual timing gear I've got, so you could see the time. So you could see me driving the car, and you could see the car driving off, and I could see the timing gear, but you can't see the actual time. So I'm hoping you can trust me when I say it was 3.77 seconds, 0 to 60, up a slight hill. Why didn't I do it again? That's the problem. A farmer decided to be a bit of a knob and come out and start filming me and make me feel really uncomfortable and make it look like I was breaking the law. So I think he thought because the car was so fast to accelerate, that meant I was obviously speeding a lot, which I wasn't. As soon as I hit 60, I'm putting the brakes on. So I'm not actually speeding, and considering the speed that I see some people driving along that road, not even close to it. But this guy had decided that he was going to be clever and video me and probably report me to the police, which will be an interesting conversation because I technically don't think I've broken any law there, but he was not having any of it. So I decided not to redo the launch. So that's awkward, and sorry about that, but yeah, trust me when I say this is a fast car. I reviewed a Porsche Macan a while ago, you can check that out on my channel, and I thought the seats were excellent in that. I'm not as excited about them in this car actually. They're loads of range of adjustment, they're fantastic for that, hug you really well, lovely quality leather, but they just feel a bit hard. They've got that kind of BMW firmness about them, and so yeah, I don't find them like super soft and comfortable. I prefer the seats, sorry I keep saying this, in my Tesla Model 3 for comfort way more, but yeah, they're good sports seats, but I don't see why you can't have sport and comfort at the same time, and I feel like the comfort side of things is a little bit below par. Visibility is good, nothing much to say about that. It's a Porsche, you don't care about that. All the way around the car you can see pretty well, good back window, all good. I don't have a lot of range left to play with this car, so I'm going to have to start being a bit clever with how I use the performance. Let's go back into range mode for a little bit and just coast along here. Now it does have recuperation, and if I put that on, so it's going to put energy back into the battery. It's definitely not that aggressive though. I still feel like I'm using my brakes quite a lot, so you might wear out your brake pads a bit more like a normal car in this compared to maybe other electric cars. But yeah, it says recuperation on, It just doesn't feel all that pronounced. The Bose upgraded sound system this thing's got is pretty good as well. Haven't got a chance to really properly set it up the way I might want to, but I still could hear some decent bass, and the treble was really good. So all the mid-range sounds, high end, was good, clear, crystal. So yep, I think this would be quite a good soundstage overall, because it's very well acoustically set up as a car in terms of the windows and just everything. It's a quality product with a good sound system, and that is a great combination. It's got presence though, this car. People definitely double take and be like, what does he do? I mean, not that I care about that. I've never cared about how I look to others with my car, but certainly this is a car that turns heads, no doubt about it. Something I'm a little bit disappointed with is, and I had the same problem in the Macan, it was worse than the Macan because it was facing away from the driver. But this is not a very driver-centric cockpit. I mean, I love the look of the digital cockpit. It's amazing, it's adaptable, it looks fantastic. But this center console, it's more about the passenger than it is about the driver, and it's arguably facing slightly towards passenger in the middle there, but it's definitely over to the left a bit. Plus they get an extra screen anyway with this Chrono Sport Pack. But yeah, it just all feels very sort of like right in the middle stroke, kind of going that way. And I don't like that. I really want a Porsche to be driver-centric and to feel like I'm in a cockpit, and I don't feel like I'm really in a cockpit. You've just got all bases covered with this thing. It handles like a sports car pretty much. It's unbelievably quick. It's really spacious and practical, and it looks amazing as well. It really is just a jack of all trades, but if Jack was like on steroids in all of his trades. But I'm at 68 miles of range remaining, which is getting a little bit squeaky bum time to get home. So I'm not going to do any more driving today. I'm going to pull up and do the rest of the review stationary and tell you about the interior. Now I'm going to make this quick because it's very windy up here, but there's possibly one major reason why you might pick the Cross Turismo over the normal Taycan, or even maybe the Porsche Panamera, and it's this boot, which is actually bigger than the Panameras, by the way. It's a really, really good boot. I was actually like, whoa, when I saw it. I'm really surprised how good a boot this actually is. It's really long and deep. It's a really good square shape. There's loads of tie-down points, tethering points. It's quite wide at the back, so you could get your golf clubs across there maybe. Massive load lip, but who cares? That is a great load bay. And when you put the seats down, you go from 446 litres to 1212. So that is a fantastic load bay. 40-20-40 split folding seats. Space for your cables underneath the floor as well. This is excellent. I am really surprised about this, and that just makes the practicality factor mixed with everything else that's great about this car such a complete package. I was in such a rush to get out of the wind when I did the boot that I forgot to tell you about the frunk, which is 84 litres. It's not quite as big as like a Tesla Model Ys, for example, but at least it's got one, and it's a decent sized frunk really, so you will be able to get your cables and other stuff in there, or obviously underneath the floor in the boot. But yeah, you've got that plus the boot, so you've really got a lot of space. So it's a lovely place to spend time, this Taycan. It's beautiful up here. And this whole dash just looks really, really techy and modern. And this pack, this Chrono Sport Bag, you get this extra screen. So your passenger can basically do all the functions of the infotainment without having the hardship of moving their line of sight about a foot to the right. So that's cool, but I do really love this interior. There's a lot of blackness, and the screen kind of has a bit of glare in the sun, even though there is a bit of a shelf above it to kind of help with that. But yeah, I'm just not really that pleased about the fact that nothing faces the driver. That's my only major issue there. And the fact that the air conditioning controls are all buried in this touchscreen down here, a bit like in an Audi, that same kind of vibe. And yeah, you get used to it, I suppose. You've got voice control too, and there's a wee sort of trackpad you can use your finger to do stuff with. But I'm not really a fan of that kind of system for air conditioning controls. It's the boy with a Tesla. But yeah, it's not ideal, but you would get used to it. There's still a tiny little bit of lag when you press the buttons, and you've got to be very specific with your presses for them to actually press. And that's the sort of thing that just takes your eyes off the road, which I just find really, really distracting and just a bit more dangerous. But it is well built in here, as you'd expect. Nothing moves, it's all solid, and really soft touch everywhere. And the one on the door for your elbow, that's really soft as well, so that's cool. I do think your driving position is decent too. I just think the seats are a little bit harder than I would like, but yeah, driving position is really good otherwise. And this door close, always a good sign of quality. Yeah, it's a really good door close. Indicator stocks, high quality as well. And yeah, all that side of things is great. Also, they definitely have thrown some budget on making sure this is finished well. This infotainment though, not a massive fan of it. There's a tiny bit of lag when you press the buttons, but when you swipe about, it's reasonably responsive and it's reasonably well laid out, but it's just quite far away. Like, I feel like I'm really having to stretch to touch it, which isn't ideal. So that could be better. The buttons on the steering wheel, there's a few shortcuts there, and they're expensive enough feeling of, they're not quite as expensive as some of Felton cars, but they're all right. You've got your drive mode stick here, which I really like. And this cockpit looks amazing. It's curved, and yeah, you can customize it, and it's got loads of really good high resolution, different bits of information in there. So that is ace. So overall, I definitely think that you've got a lot of good information being fed to you. I just feel like the control of it could be slightly better. But the storage side of things is pretty mixed. I wouldn't say it's amazing. Got these two big cup holders in the middle, but they do look a little bit of an eyesore in the middle of the console. You will fit a big bottle in both of them. They're quite deep, they'll hold the bottle quite well, so that's fine. The door bins are an okay size. They've got felt lining as well. You will get a big bottle in there as well. But I just don't like the fact that your sort of armrest here in the middle is just taken up by this massive big hole for one of the cup holders. But you do have this bin at the back, which is not very deep, but it's felt lined at least. Glove box is an okay size, and you've got this floating console underneath the main bit here, and that is got a rubber mat on the bottom. It's not that easy to actually get your hand in to get stuff, but yeah, you've got it. So the cubby side's all right. So the back seats in this car are really for two people, but they're going to be pretty comfortable. Seats from driving position, I'm 5'9", and I've got a bit of knee room. Toe room's pretty good as well, actually. Headroom isn't too bad, although your head could bump off the side here. This pan roof goes all the way back. It's fixed, there's no blind for it, but it looks amazing. But yeah, it's really quite comfortable back here for two adults, I think. Massive transmission tunnel, which is a shame considering it's an EV. It makes the middle seat passenger not have the best of times, so I wouldn't recommend three people back here for long journeys, and it's not very wide either. And this elbow rest in the door, yeah, if your elbow's like that, it's okay, but up there kind of comes out. The door bins are tiny, they're pretty useless actually, although they are felt lined for all the things you can actually fit in them. And then you've got this center armrest, which is really more of a cup holder thing. You've got a tiny bit of space in the side for your elbow. That's really soft, but it's really not that useful as an armrest. And you've got ISOFIX in our two seats, which do have clips that come off, and they'll be easy to lose, but once they're off, they're very easy to get to the ISOFIX points. You've got air conditioning at the back here, but it's not its own controls, so it's just going to be whatever the front is. And yeah, that's about it really. It's very nice back here for two people. I mean, if you're looking for competitors for this thing, then quite a few of them I would say really are actually petrol ones, like, you know, like a BMW M5 Touring or a Mercedes E63 or, you know, something like that. But the Panamera is definitely the Porsche equivalent, I would say. And then there's also the normal Taycan, but it's just not as practical as this. I really think this is quite a unique car. It seems to be almost in a niche of its own, and that's one of the reasons why it's so awesome. But it's expensive, and if you're buying one new, you're going to be over 100 grand for the 4S. This one was just shy of 100 grand new, and it's now worth 60 odd, and that's a lot of depreciation in just over 2 years. But this is the thing, a lot of YouTubers are trying to milk content about how, you know, depreciation on these is so bad, and it's just like this shock factor and trying to vilify EVs and stuff. There is an argument to be said about, you know, all that stuff, but I also just think if you can afford to buy a performance car like this, you possibly can afford to take the risk on the depreciation and you're not that worried about it. But if you are really worried about depreciation, then, and this is not financial advice, got to say that, then maybe just look at doing some finance like a PCP where you actually pay off the depreciation, whether it's new or used, and not worry about what it's going to be worth at the end. Just hand it back, which I'm planning to do with my Tesla Model 3. So there are ways to get around worrying about this, but if you can afford it, just get one. It's absolutely awesome. And as a family car, as a performance car, as a, you know, a total pimping car, so many different ways, this is a great car. It's fantastic, except for the range, which is actually concerning me a little bit. It's about a 50-mile trip, so I'm going to be cutting this pretty fine. So I'm going to have it in the range mode and just coast home basically and make sure I get back, because that is the limitation of this thing. But outside of that, it's amazing. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please do give it a like and leave me a comment below with your thoughts on it. And don't forget to subscribe as well, because there's loads more coming up the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.